Slot concerns, no problem for Omar Cooper. And for the Houston Texans, they could absolutely benefit from adding the Indiana receiver.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Dr. Red Nation from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texas fans all around. Continuing with my daily additional bonus coverage. Was supposed to drop Friday. AT&T gave me all kind of issues, but I'm back, and this time I'm addressing the wide receiver position. And I think Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana could be perfect for the Houston Texans and what they absolutely need. And so I'm excited to talk about it today. We'll follow up and do more draft coverage with different prospects starting on Monday after today. But here's the thing about Omar Cooper Jr. and the wide receiver room for the Houston Texans. I'm one of those guys who thinks Houston should be adding to their wide receiver room. I am, right? I think the yak yards was an issue last year for Houston. A consistent threat aside from Nico Collins was an issue in 2025 for Houston. And I think the floor and ceiling for Xavier Hutchinson, who had a career year, by the way, and no disrespect, but I don't think the floor and the ceiling are no different from one another. Now, I'll give this offense ask a lot of their receivers, and adding another young receiver might not be ideal. Adding a vet might be the smarter move, i.e., the Saturday morning show where I talked about DJ Moore. I like DJ Moore to Houston. I like that idea if he becomes a cap casualty, which, I mean, in a lot of ways I agree with. But going into another year with this exact room and adding Tank Dell and thinking adding Tank Dell is going to solve the problems is not smart. So with the receivers, I'm only going to look at day 2 to day 3 picks, right? I think the drop off between the top 3 guys compared to everybody else is immense. It's enormous, in my opinion. And the guy that I think Houston could really use, especially if and when they move on from Christian Kirk. I'm going to say if. I really want to say when, but I have to put if on it because I'm not the general manager. But if they move on from Christian Kirk, Omar Cooper is the guy. I mean, for a lot of people, he's viewed as a dynamic day 2 pick between rounds 2 and 3 in the 2026 NFL draft. He has elite yak ability, 6.6 yak yards per catch, has a high missed tackle rate, and reliability with a low drop rate. Over 300 snaps in the slot in 2025, 55 slot catches, nearly 800 slot yards. And for a lot of scouts and people out there, they compare him to Rashee Rice. I think his highs and lows are far apart from each other in terms of production. So when you have a great Cooper Jr. game, it looks really good. When you don't have a great Cooper Jr. game, okay, was it him? Was it the lack of opportunities? There were a few times this past year where you look at, okay, not necessarily getting targets, well, actually, no, 9 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets, 10 targets against Kennesaw State, 1 target, Illinois, 7 target. So the targets are there, but maybe the production isn't there. But ultimately, he finished the year with 13.9 yards per catch, right over 800 yards. Right over 800 yards in 11 TDs, and did a good job of improving year in and year out the last 3 seasons since arriving at Indiana. So, I mean, he's a gamer. He's a baller. But for Texan fans out there, you know, what we liked about Jaylin Noel coming out of college was his production from 10 or more yards. I still like Jaylin Noel, by the way. I'm not trying to replace him. But what I can do is recognize that for his first year in the NFL, all things considered, it was in many ways disappointing, in many ways underwhelming, which may be the word that I should use. But what we liked about Jaylin Noel coming out of college in terms of production was what he was able to do from 10 or more yards, especially 20 or more yards down the field. In comparison to Cooper Jr., what you'll like about him coming out of college this year is his production from 10 and under, which is where he really shows his value. So the last year for Jaylin Noel, in comparison to this past year for Cooper Jr. 10 and under, 150 yak yards for Noel. 10 and under for Cooper, 273 yak yards. And so let's not get caught up at, two slot receivers. The expectation of what you want for Jaylin Noel has always been downfield playmaking ability, stretching the defense downfield. The expectation for a Cooper Jr. is more so centered around what can you do for me 10 and under, especially if the pressure's on and I need to dump the ball off. They can coexist with one another on a successful playing field because they are asked to do different things. And also, by the way, in that role, in that 10 and under role, 3 TDs compared to 0 with Omar Cooper winning that conversation. Then again, you look at Cooper's yak ability, forced 27 missed tackles in 2025, runs like a running back. He converts short throws into explosive plays, which is what the Houston Texans, I think, in many ways lack. He's a willing run blocker, finishes runs through contact, very QB friendly underneath. And being QB friendly for receivers may look different. A 6'4" QB friendly receiver is going to look differently from a 6 and under QB friendly receiver, especially when you look at the tagline of being a QB friendly receiver underneath. And this is what I like, just watching some of the things on tape. He will adjust and break down off his route to give himself more space from the defender. And I've seen him use that leverage to create that separation, catch the ball, and quickly get upfield. Wide receiver coaches are teaching their receivers now, if you're having issues or you want to create a little bit more separation, especially for those guys that are twitchy, especially for those guys that can get loose in the phone booth, break down. So on a deep crossing route, if that defender is on your hip, just break down from hash to hash. Come down just a little bit while you're running. Some running down towards an angle a little bit to give your quarterback that throw, that window of a throw that he can deliver it to you, and he knows you turn around and get open, get upfield, you'll get about 7 extra yards. I think that is what Cooper Jr. displayed this past year for Indiana. He doesn't win consistently downfield, but does a good job of selling downfield routes if he has a free release. Man coverage is where he struggled. I think he can be a screen weapon at the next level. And I think the Oregon game showed me the highs and lows of what makes him an NFL prospect at the next level. Good or bad, the right fit will determine the start of his career and the potential impact he can have. Now, let's take a break. And when I return, I want to take a look at some more concerns, but also we talk about the right fit. Could the Houston Texans and could Cooper be the right fit for the Texans in 2026 and beyond? You want to talk about right fits? 5 Hour Energy has the right fit of flavor for whatever you like. So welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. And now I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft ready to go. I'm running down. Da-da-da, da-da-da. John Hickman is rolling with Confetti Craze. All right. Why am I rolling with Confetti Craze? Sweet birthday cake inspired flavor. Notes of vanilla frosting with a sugary sprinkle. Smooth dessert-like taste profile, rich, indulgent sweetness from start to finish. That flavor is my number one pick. But aside from the favorite flavors that's out there, 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with 0 sugar. 5 Hour Energy has a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned, some of which you may like to see. But find your favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or available on Amazon. And also, Texan fans, you want to talk about a company that's always looking out for their consumers. This is where FanDuel comes in. If you've ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person. FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. If you're looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. Visit fanduel.com to get started and use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Texas fans, let's close out. Look at some more of his strengths. We looked at some of the strengths. Let's look at some of the weaknesses and also essentially how he could be a fit for the Houston Texans. So I think the vertical separation has a ceiling there, at least as of right now. Scouts out there still want to see more consistent deep wins. Scouts out there want to see an expanded route tree. And just from the couple of games that I watched from Cooper this past year, at times it does feel like the further he gets downfield, the more compromised his routes become. I think that's an issue. And he could be better. And I think I say a lot better with how he wins one-on-one coverage from one-on-one opportunities from the line of scrimmage, not the line of scrimmage, but from the line of scrimmage, some of those press coverage situations. I think he can be a lot better there, clean up that approach. But how does Omar Cooper fit the Texans? I said it before and I said it again. This team needs some yak juice. Yak juice. Omar Cooper can let it loose. Let it loose. I don't know why I did that. But the Texans need more yak juice, right? They need guys that can get upfield. Houston's offense, especially on third and medium and third and long, they need guys that are just quick separators, right? Obviously, we can look at maybe the route concepts being a little bit better for the Houston Texans moving forward. Last year was year one of Nick Caley. I think that is something that he considering change. But they need guys that can create quick separation. They need run after catchability guys. They need guys that when the pressure's on, CJ Stroud can just dump it off. Boop. I know he can get open. They get Tank Dell back, right? There's a video out there with Tank Dell, by the way, that I hadn't mentioned, where he's working out and he looks a little bit bigger up top. Still look a little small at the bottom in terms of his legs. And so the legs is what he has used to get to the NFL. It's how he's going to get paid. But the Houston Texans could use a guy that can learn from Dale in a lot of ways, right? But also add to what Dale could potentially bring as time moves on. I think Houston needs to prepare for a slow start from Dale. So all of the things that the Houston Texans offense lacked last year, in many ways, I think Omar Cooper could fit. And I also think the type of quarterback he played with, if Fernando Mendoza has prepared him to play with a quarterback like CJ Stroud in many ways, right? And again, the Texans need a slot weapon. They don't have a slot weapon in terms of a guy, 10 and under that can win, that can get upfield. If the Texans offense continue to trend towards quick game efficiency, spread pacing, Cooper is tailor-made for that, in my opinion. So I like Cooper to Houston, and I'm only going to look at guys that, could possibly be there at the first, second round pick and beyond. I think Houston is in an interesting position because they could very well, stockpile picks if somebody comes calling for that 28th overall pick. A lot of what I think Houston should do in the draft is based on how I believe the Houston Texans should approach free agency. Get some guys in here, some veteran guys that are already up to speed. Their body is up to speed. They already have an NFL frame. They already have an NFL body. They already have an NFL mental, right? They already can fit any offense, especially from an offensive line perspective, right? And then from there, you look at the NFL draft and you're looking at guys that can just add to. But Cooper to Houston, in many ways, hanging with Mr. Cooper, in many ways, I think makes sense. If people get past, we drafted Jaylin Noel. If people get past, we're getting Tank Dell back. Because like it or not, Tank Dell is an outside receiver. Shout out to my boy, Coach Barnes. This is a couple years ago when they was drafted here to Houston, CJ and Tank Dell, they were both drafted. He said, man, I don't know why we're so quick to regulate him to the slot because he's small. if you look at how he wins and when he won coming out of college at U of H, he's an outside receiver. In the NFL, he's proven to be a outside threat of a receiver. To the point when Stephon Diggs was in Houston, he was more so the slot guy. Yeah. So, and I think Houston has a good formula. Like if you get Tank Dell back, he can still be outside receiver. Nico can be outside receiver in certain spots. I think Jaylin Noel is exceptional as a slot receiver in the red zone because of the matchup, the mismatches he can create with that size and that speed and his ability to get upfield. And he's only going to get better. It could be dangerous, and Cooper could add to that. He can add fuel to the fire. And I think his ceiling is much higher than Xavier Hutchinson's ceiling. And I think Christian Kirk showed Houston that is he worth bringing back? No, he's not. But you guys are worth talking Texans anytime I can get. And I'll be back with more additional coverage Monday afternoon. Until next time, ladies and gents, Texan fans across the nation, peace.